What's good, guys? Yeah, it's another Mavic Mini video. I know you guys are probably tired of seeing these in your sub box. I promise we're almost through with these videos. There's not many left that I've had planned, and we're going to be moving on to a new drone. Hopefully the Skydio releases. But anyways, many people have just gotten these. They're really excited about this drone because maybe it's their first drone. So the color and the sharpness and just overall image on this drone is pretty good. Now, you can't make many changes in the camera, but if you do have an editor like Premiere Pro, Final Cut Pro, or even LumaFusion, you can make changes in post that will really boost this image, and you can fool a lot of people into thinking you have a way more expensive drone than you actually have. You can take an image that looks like this and turn it into something that looks like this. I'm going to show you how, so stick around. Guys, what's going on? My name is Original Dobo, and on this channel, it's all about drone and tech related content. So if that's your thing or you find that sort of stuff useful, go ahead, hit that subscribe button before you leave this video. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into Premiere Pro and quickly show you how to color correct the Mavic Mini footage. Now, one thing to note is that we're working with 40 megabit bit rates on the file sizes. So there's not a lot of information, so you have to be really careful. And the idea, or I should say the name of the game with the Mavic Mini footage, is subtle is better. So let's get started. So you can see we have Premiere Pro opened up here, and I'm going to go ahead and grab my file. Now, I have my file sorted from, how I basically shot them. And I'm just going to slide this one in here, and this is the main shot, the one I showed you. And I'm going to trim the clip to the point where I want sort of like my hero moment. And I think my hero moment really begins when that bird starts flying. Now, by the way, guys, I did shoot this in 25 frames per second. I'm a 24p shooter, so this just is as close as I'm going to get. And if I really wanted to get it down to that super cinematic movement, I can just make this 99%, which will make it exactly 24 frames per second in my 24p timeline. So I want to go ahead and make sure my timeline is in fact 24 frames per second. So that's exactly what I will do. I'll actually go up to custom, and I'm just going to drop this to 2396, and there we go. So now my timeline is 2396, and you'll see that this just looks a lot smoother, a lot slower. I like it. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Somebody may say, well, I like 30, so you can stick with 30. I'm not telling you to switch. We're not going to have that conversation. All right. So first things first, let's go ahead and grab a couple of adjustment layers. So an adjustment layer is basically a transparent layer that I can just drag on top of my footage. So if I don't like the changes I made, I don't have to revert everything on the actual footage itself. The first thing I'm going to show you how to do is I want to go ahead and go into the Creative tab. Now on Final Cut Pro or LumaFusion, this may be a little bit different. And if you guys want to see a specific tutorial for either LumaFusion or Final Cut Pro, drop me a comment down below with either FCP or Luma, and I'll spin one of those up. But anyways, there's a sharpness tab in here, and you'll notice if I go 100%, you can see that looks really bad. But if I drop this back to, let's say, I don't know, we'll say -5%. I guess that's 5%. Anyways, it just looks a little bit better. It is really subtle, and I would almost have to zoom in to let you see it. But what that'll do is it'll stop the aliasing and just sort of like the artifacting when you're watching these videos on YouTube, because YouTube's compression isn't always the best sometimes. So sometimes the sharper their image, the more artifacting you'll see. And I actually dropped it back to like -5.3. I just think that looks best. The next thing I want to go ahead and do is I want to grab one more adjustment layer, and I'm going to drag it on top of here because I'm going to go ahead and adjust some of the colors. Now, the reason why I put the adjustment layer on top of my sharpening is because any changes I make, I want it to be on top of the sharpening, or in this case, de-sharpening, and not in between. So it just will help with some of the noise. Again, everybody has personal taste on how they handle this. This is just my method. All right, so we're going to do this really simple. First things first, I have my scopes opened up on the left-hand side. You want to make sure these are opened. And you'll see on the left-hand side, we are a little bit blown out here. You can see that flat bar. Simply just take your exposure bar and just drop it down just so you're underneath the 100 mark. All right, perfect. That looks pretty good. The next thing we could do is go ahead and just play with the shadows until you like what you see. I like shadows that are lifted a little bit. And then what I'll do is I'll take my blacks down but leave my shadow sort of like that. So give you an idea of what that's doing. It's just changing it ever so subtly. And now what I will do is I will change sort of my tint balance with the color. So I have the highlight tint and the shadow tint. I like taking my shadows and bringing them all the way to the orange here, sort of like that. And then I'll take my tint and bring it down more towards the teal. So it sort of gives it that blue, just down like that. And then I'll play with my tint balance, and I usually just drag it over. I don't want to drag it that warm, but I want it to be warm-ish. So we'll see what it looks like. Off, on, off, on. I think that looks better. Now, one could say, well, you can just grab these sliders up here, Dobo, and just do this. But the problem is that changes the temperature for the entire image. And I don't want to change the entire image's temp. I just want to change like the shadows and the highlights. And I think for me that this looks so much better. And that is really it. Super simple. Of course, we can go a little bit crazier by adjusting the contrast if we want it. And for this one, I'd probably only add like maybe 15 to the contrast. I think that the Mavic Mini already has a bit too much contrast in it, but if I was going for more of a cinematic look, I can just bump this up a little bit. Now, for you more advanced people, there is also the color curves, which I love color curves because you can really dial in specific looks. But for somebody who's just starting out and you don't really understand what these curves do, because you can really break an image. Like you can see, I can change like everything if I really wanted to, but we're not going to do that. So just keeping it really simple for you guys, and you just sort of see like what this looks like. And I think that looks so much better. And again, it's going to be really subjective to what type of day that you're filming. This was filmed at about 3 o'clock, so not quite the sunset hour, but you can sort of fake it just with some minor color enhancements. I also locked the exposure because, well, you can't change the ISO or set the shutter. So I did go ahead and lock the exposure with every shot so it wasn't fluctuating as I shot. Anyways, I hope this helps. If you found this tutorial useful and want to see more, go ahead and drop a like, comment down below, and I'll go ahead and leave you with some sample footage. How's that sound? I'll see you in the next one. Stay original.